Death is not the end of anything. A talk by Avatar Adidas Samraj, taken from Easy Death, Spiritual Wisdom on the Ultimate Transcending of Death and Everything Else. You cannot get in touch with reality itself or truth itself without dying, in the sense of relinquishing the egoic self. Most people think they will do that at the end of the physical lifetime. They do not deal with reality, capital R reality, or truth in life, yet they imagine they will deal with it at death. They will not. If they have not dealt with it while alive, they will not want reality, capital R reality, in death any more than they wanted it while they lived. To realize reality itself, you, the ego, must die, because you, as a knot, a gesture, an act of separating from reality. What is called you is an action of dissociation from reality, and I call it the ego, the self-contraction, represented by the clenched fist, as opposed to the open hand. It avoids reality. Many of the same mechanisms by which the individual avoided reality in life come into play again at death. The reports of people who have gone through a near-death experience suggest that they are describing the process of death, whereas they are not. They are reporting their association with the death process, and they do not distinguish between the egoic mechanisms they brought to the experience and the process itself. Therefore, the reports of near-death experiences are full of the results of egoity, and they are not pure representations of the process of death. The specific content of a near-death experience has everything to do with the cultural context in which the individual grew up. The testimony of Christian individuals, for example, typically corresponds exactly to the popular Christian notion of eternity and of life. If one accepts this report at face value, it seems to prove that the popular Christian view of reality is reality, capital R, but it is not. In one account, a woman describes the usual experience of passing out of the body and then going down the tunnel and seeing the light. Then she saw a vision of Jesus in which he gave her some instruction. Why does a Christian see Jesus? In a Christian cultural context, it may seem obvious that Jesus is the light, and it may even be presumed that all people see Jesus when they die. But does the Buddhist see Jesus? Does the Hindu see Jesus? Does the Native American see Jesus? No, they each see the light in a different manner. Someone who has died sees the light as a personification because of certain kinds of association. The mind and its devices are still combining with the experience and limiting it necessarily. The light is simply the light. The light is capital R reality itself. The light is real God, the divine. The light is the ultimate condition, but you cannot realize it as the divine self-condition if you are ego-possessed, if you are still self-contracted in any fashion whatsoever. To whatever degree you are ego-possessed, not given over, not sacrificed, not ego-less, the light is transformed by your own mind. Going down the tunnel and seeing the light is just the first step, yet people talk of this experience as if it were the ultimate result. It is just the beginning. If you do not realize the light as the divine self-condition, it continues to be modified. It is Jesus, or whomever one may see, only for a brief time. Then it becomes all kinds more of your mind, your limitation, your fear, your eager possession, your visions, appearances, associations, and dreamlike phenomena, until there is, in all this spinning, a reconjunction with another fixed position, which is reincarnation, perhaps in this condition, or perhaps in some other condition or some other vibratory plane. Light itself is the substance of reality. It is reality itself, the open hand disposition. You cannot realize it, you cannot be one with it, unless the sense of separate self dies. There must be no difference, no separation, no self-contraction. By means of my avataric divine spiritual grace, the light can be realized. Reality can be realized, even while conditional appearances apparently persist. You can be utterly free of fear, of ego possession, of separation, of negative destiny, of bondage. However, there must awaken in you a disposition that would have it be so. If you are willing to embrace a lesser solution, a manner of avoiding reality, then that solution is your destiny. You will not realize the divine self-condition simply because you die. The reports that say the light at the end of the tunnel appears as some form or other that instructs and embraces you or makes you feel good are conditioned by egoity. Some element in those reports is correct, and that part of it is universally experienced, yet whatever is superimposed on it is egoically determined, filled with the associations of that ego while alive. In any case, moving into the light is just the beginning. If you are not utterly egoless, if you are not coincident with the light, then it is modified further and it is no longer indivisible light. It becomes appearances of one kind or another until it solidifies again. Therefore, you will not get any relief in merely dying. You are just putting off the necessary ordeal until the end of life because you are refusing to accept that ordeal now. If you do not endure that ordeal most profoundly before physical death, such that you are purified of ego possession, then at physical death you will have some experience like the reports of near-death experiences manifested in your particular manner, and all the rest of the modifications will follow. Getting out of the body is not just fun. There are some pleasurable moments. There is some relief, some strangeness, some wow, howdy, some disappearing, some confusion, some fear. All of the terribleness of life and all that is potential after death is determined by the self-contraction, not by the divine, and not as a matter of ultimate destiny. Really, none of that is necessary because the only reality with a capital R, all the while, is the one infinite brightness of divine being, self-existing, and self-radiant, without the slightest problem. It is always so. It is possible by my avataric divine spiritual grace to realize the bright of divine being in this lifetime, or alternatively, you can realize it after countless lifetimes. It is simple. It is simply a matter of when you are willing to be serious enough about real God realization. Every moment alive in death, after death, is about reality. Reality is not later. Reality is now. Light is salvation. Ordinary life, not ordinary life is not. Light liberates. Truth liberates. Real God is the only right destiny. Truth or reality or real God is that which, when realized, sets you free by definition. Without the realization of real God, truth or reality, you are not free. There is nothing satisfactory about life in and of itself, about the solutions the ego makes. There is no freedom, no ultimate happiness without the realization of truth or real God, reality or light. In this very moment, would you not rather be totally happy and free? It is not a question, it is not a controversy, but you do not have any great surety about doing such, and therefore you readily fall into your self-contracted habit. Of course, it is even anciently known that truth or light is the necessary choice, but to do so, you must understand that you are an ego of habit, a machine long adapted to the darkness. You cannot merely be a sympathy with the realization of light, have all of that darkness vanish. You must do the spiritual practice, the sadhana. You must do the work. As my devotee, you must turn to me and receive my avataric divine spiritual grace. You must go through the ordeal. If you are not willing to do that, then, even in moments of inspiration, your course will not change, because you will feel immediately, even though I am inspired, I want to realize the light, it is still not happening right now. I still have this pain. This is difficult. Not willing to endure the ordeal, you will lapse into your egoic solution, the apparent solution, rather than be manly, male or female, and endure what must be endured in order to be purified. You must the more purified you are through real participation in heart communion with me, the more transparent you will be during the transition beyond this life. The way of Adidam is all about the death of egoity. That means that the way of Adidam is all about real God, truth, reality, light, freedom, liberation, not merely death in some negative sense. Real life, the real course of existence in manifestation, is to volunteer to the light, to be purified and surrendered and gone beyond. Rightly, every moment of conditionally manifested existence has this purpose and is combined with this purpose and given over to it in a manly fashion. Da. The light can only be realized in divine communion, because divine communion interferes with egoic destiny. Divine communion, heart communion, interferes and purifies the body-mind. Thank you.